Hey guys, this is John. Just wanted to give you one last update on the London Chess Classic. It is Tuesday and I'm back here in Minnesota. I got back on Saturday night. I'm all caught up on sleep now, fortunately. So last we left off, it was round 7 and I had just lost to the French Grandmaster, Sebastian Maze. And in round 8, I was paired down against a FIDE master from Poland, Michal Paterek. And I mentioned in my last video that I was going to try to surprise my opponent a little bit. And the surprise that I used with the white pieces was the exchange Slav, which is a line I've mentioned before. I think it fits my style pretty well, but I haven't really used it much in tournament play. So I captured on d5, because I know from experience as a Slav player, it's not so easy for black to equalize. And even if black does equalize in practice, they often have to spend time remembering their analysis. And even then, white might have a bit of a practical pull. So I was just aiming for a safe advantage in that game, looking to outplay my opponent in the middle game, and perhaps even bank some time in the opening, which, as it turns out, is exactly what happened. There was only one game I could find of his where he had faced the exchange Slav in the past. And as it turns out, he played the same line that he played in that game, which was from back in, I think it was 2012. And I think that was a preparation mistake by him, deciding to repeat a line that was in the database and that he perhaps should have known that I had seen prior to the game. There's a lot of nuances like that in preparation, but when you're encountering a somewhat rare line, your opponent's playing something new that you hadn't anticipated, I think it makes sense to deviate from what you've done in the past, or at least be mindful of how they might be trying to surprise you. Because in that game, I was able to get a nice edge out of the opening, and I had a time advantage too. Probably for the first time this tournament, a significant time advantage. I think he burned about 45 minutes between moves 9 and 11, whereas I was still in my book preparation, and I was able to execute some familiar ideas to me. So I ended up building a huge time advantage, and also I had a better position on the board, which translated to pressure in the middle game. And there was an interesting situation that occurred in the middle game, which I've talked about before in videos, which is when the tension is favorable to you. So specifically the pawn tension. There were a couple pawns attacking each other, but it was a case where he could not favorably capture any of my pawns without opening too many lines. So I was able to play slower moves that continued to build the tension, where he had to contemplate at any given moment what would happen if I released the tension. And there was a moment where I played this move h3, which looks pretty baffling, but it was a useful move because it solved a lot of back rank issues for me. And again, he wasn't able to favorably release the tension anywhere. And when the tension did become released, he was in bad time pressure, and the position opened up in my favor pretty quickly. I was able to dominate the 7th rank, and I won pretty easily as a result of my good position. So, smooth game in round 8. I was happy to get the win. It was kind of reminiscent of my round 6 game against George O'Toole. I would put it in that same category. Just had the white pieces, got a good position out of the opening, kept the pressure on, and my opponent's position was just too tough to play. And you start to make mistakes as a result. It's unavoidable. So in the final round, I was paired with another French Grandmaster, Jules Mossard. And this was a young player. I think he was born in 1996, I want to say. So let's say 20 years old. And he had gained a lot of strength in the past year. I think he was an IM not long ago, but now he's up to 2571 FIDE. Excellent player. And I had the black pieces. He had been opening with knight f3 on move 1 throughout the tournament. So I thought there was a good chance he would do the same. He's been playing a lot of that in the past year. So in that game, I got a position in the middle game that sort of fit my preparation. But the mistake I made is that I didn't adapt to the new circumstances. And in fact, there was a moment, I think around move 16 or 17, where an unusual bishop maneuver would have been very strong for me. So playing, I think, this move, bishop from h5 to e2 would have been very good, possibly with the idea of dropping the bishop all the way back to a6. And if I had done that, I think I would have obtained a significant advantage. In some cases, black even has the idea of playing c6 to c5 to c4 and advancing further on the queen side. Hello. So that would have cramped my opponent significantly on the queen side. And I think I might have obtained maybe even a clear advantage. The computer says it's a clear advantage for black. To my human eyes, it's not so apparent. But that was clearly a moment where I needed to deviate from my preparation and the positions that I had seen in my preparation and just adjust to the circumstances. And I played a bit timidly. I kind of executed some standard ideas. And I soon found myself in a position that I thought was not that bad, but it turns out it actually gave me a lot of trouble. And credit to Grandmaster Mossard, because he found a very nice idea, which I'm going to see if you guys can find as well. I'm going to post this in the comments below as a diagram. It's white to move. And I want to see if you can figure out the idea that Moussard executed on me that allowed him to obtain essentially a winning position. I had a choice between defending against this idea by going passive and admitting that my previous play was bad, or trying to complicate and maybe stir up some trouble. I tried to stir up trouble, but it didn't work out so well against him. So I went down in the final round. Unfortunate. I really wanted to draw or win this final round. So I ended up the tournament with 5.5 out of 9, so +2. 4 wins, 2 losses, and what would it be? 3 draws, I think? Yeah, that adds up to 9. So 4 wins, 2 losses, 3 draws. I think I performed a bit under my expectation. I think my performance rating was a little over 2,400, and my FIDE rating is 2,448. But it kind of boiled down to that last game. If I had won or drawn the last game, I think it would have been a decent event. Didn't get a Grandmaster norm, but I did play some interesting chess. A couple quick takeaways. My opening preparation was actually pretty good for this tournament. I got consistently decent positions out of the opening. However, 2 things that I struggled with were my time management and my calculation in somewhat messy positions. When push came to shove in messier, unclear scenarios, my calculation was lacking. And I think that was evident in, for instance, the game against David Mirzoyan, the FIDE master, in round 5. Also against Grandmaster Hrant Melkumian in round 4, where I had an excellent opportunity to take his bishop, which previously would not have been a good idea, but under the slightly changed circumstances would have been a very strong idea. And if I had calculated that out a little bit more, even though it looks kind of dangerous, I would have discovered that it's just plain good for white, and I would have had a good chance of winning that. So I got to work on my calculation, especially in messier positions. I tend to prefer clarity in positions, and I know this is a weakness for me, but especially the time management thing is a big problem for me right now. But I kind of anticipated it would be that way coming in. This is only the second 9-round tournament or longer, big international tournament that I played in the past year. And I knew that I was probably going to struggle with the clock, because you guys see me struggle with the clock all the time in my online games as well. So if there's one thing I could really work on in my game right now, I think it's the time management and maybe the calculation in messy positions being secondary. So anyways, I am going to end this video. You can see I'm out here in the cold. I'm just trying to give some interesting backgrounds as opposed to filming in my house or whatnot. It's actually not that cold out right now. It's like 35 degrees, which feels really nice, because when I got here to Minnesota on Saturday night, it was below 0. Like Sunday was ridiculously cold. So I'm kind of enjoying walking around out here. I've got a little bit of a day off today because my computer is in the shop. You guys know I've been having computer issues. Fortunately, I think those are going to be solved very soon. And thank you to Toby. There was a guy who watches my videos. His name is Toby. I know a lot of you gave advice, but Toby actually got in touch with me and told me specifically what I needed to fix with my computer. And knock on wood, but I think things are going to be okay with the computer going forward. And I should have a much faster graphics card, for one thing, which we pinpointed as being one of the big problems. My graphics card was pretty old and slow and tying up a lot of my resources. Anyways, I'm going to end this video. Thanks to those who followed along. Thanks for those who are watching and following me as I played the London Chess Classic. It was a blast. Don't know if I'll be back next year. Too early to say, but as always, I will post the games in the description below so you can see all the games. And see if you can figure out that tactic that Moussard pulled off on me. I think it was an interesting one. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.